Once upon a time, lived a tortoise and a hare in an old wooden house, on the outskirts of the great forest. In fact, the tortoise and the hare were stepbrothers since Tortoise's mother married Hare's father last year. The tortoise was a friendly and quiet boy, but did everything so slowly, at his own pace in his own time. The hare, on the other hand, was quite the show-off, and always bragged about how fast he was. He was also quite mean to his stepbrother and always teased him about getting everything done so slowly. When the tortoise was doing his homework, he would laugh and say things like,
"By the time you finish your homework, Christmas will be here and we will be on school holidays."
And when the tortoise crossed the road, he would laugh and say things like,
"You are so slow, only a snail would think you are speeding."
Or,
"You're so slow, you better be careful you don't get a parking ticket."
These cruel and hurtful insults never stopped, and their parents turned a blind eye. So one day, after being pushed too far about how slow he is, Tortoise stood up to Hare for the very first time. In front of all their friends, including Snail, Elephant, and Sloth, who were also victims of his constant teasing and bragging, Tortoise challenged him to a race through the forest.
"Hare, I challenge you to a race through the forest,"
he said in his slow and steady voice. All of the other animals were totally surprised by his daring challenge, as they all knew that Tortoise was the slowest of them all. The hare immediately burst into laughter and cried,
"What a joke. That slow coach thinks he can beat me in a race. Are you for real, brother? You know what my feet are made of. I could finish the race before you have even started, but you have got a deal. Let's do it now before you chicken out."
Now that the race had been agreed upon, the other animals set out to set up the race by plotting out the course and by putting up the start and finish lines. Early in the morning, as the sun rose up in the sky, the tortoise and the hare stood ready and eager at the starting line. All of their forest friends were standing to the side and couldn't wait to see what would happen, so they began the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. As they all expected, Hare sped off as fast as he could and disappeared quickly over the horizon, leaving Tortoise far behind to walk at his own slow and steady pace. It looked clear to everyone who was going to win the race. After a short while, the hare stopped and looked behind him, but the tortoise was nowhere to be seen.
"He is way behind me at the moment,"
the hare thought to himself.
"I have easily won this race. I should take a rest under this nice shady tree and wait for him to catch up."
The hare closed his eyes, but his short snooze soon turned into a long nap. Meanwhile, the tortoise jogged steadily along the hot and dusty road, ever so slowly but surely, until soon, he passed the hare who was still peacefully sleeping. Passing ever so quietly, the tortoise continued his slow jog heading towards the finish line. As he approached the end of the race, all of his friends started to cheer for him, although with looks of full surprise on their faces. The hare quickly jumped up and sped off faster than he had ever run before, trying to catch up to the tortoise. Leaping through the finish line, landing face down, he looks up to see the tortoise had already beaten him to the finish. Tired and embarrassed, the hare slumped down beside the tortoise. he asked.
How did you beat me?
Slow and steady wins the race, slow and steady,
he said with a smirk on his face. And from that moment on, the hare never laughed at or teased his stepbrother again.
The moral of the story is that, slow and steady wins the race. The tortoise won because he was determined, and did not stop for a second. The hare lost because he was overconfident and had taken his win for granted.
This digital story was written and produced by Shane McPherson for educational purposes only and is an alternative version to the original fable of the tortoise and the hare. Images from Google Images were used in the production of this video presentation.